for Café Anyway. Welcome to Café Anyway. Hey!
It's Mike's Daddy Podcast.
Episode 3243, 240. On this podcast, we'll hear from Benita the Rodeo Queen, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player,
Daily Podcast,
and the Brewmaster. I'm Mike Matthews. Welcome to the show where I talk to you about things you don't know. We cover stuff like the world and let's see. Oh, that kind of looks a little better. That didn't rhyme with world. Oh well.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I'm just getting used to this whole thing about doing podcasting and whatnot, and there's papers.
Mike's
Lots of papers
Daily
to go through.
Podcast.
That's what this show is called.
Yeah.
Hey, did you ever go to where I do the video? You know, I cannot stand it. I'm always talking and harping against people that do podcasts that are all into video, and maybe I'm just jealous that they do it better than me or whatever, but I do a video podcast that you can see if you go to mikesdailypodcast.com. I don't put it on YouTube, although you can listen to the show on YouTube. It's just basically pulling from the podcast feed, and you can listen there if you would like. But if you want to see it, it's through the Twitch account, and that is twitch.tv/Mike Podcast. But you can also go to mikesdailypodcast.com. I found out recently that when I was just a kid, now I'm in my 50s, but when I was just a wee little bairn in Santa Barbara, California, and I was trying to get into radio, I was so entranced by radio, and I was working late at night. I would do this show called American Dance Tracks, which came on records. I didn't actually talk. It was somebody else named Jeff White who talked. And just before that, there was a live show called Hitline USA, where people could call up and talk to Billy Idol or Bruce Hornsby or the group Chicago or whatever. And there was a guy that would come on at night.
And here's today's podcast picture.
At midnight, and this isn't a picture of him. The podcast picture is of the beautiful sunset that I saw about a week ago in Podcastro Valley, from the Garin to Chabot to Garin Regional Trail. It's a beautiful trail you can take all around the Bay Area, and it's got a great sunset there, and you can see the Bay and see it at mikesdailypodcast.com and all the other past podcast pictures. But I found out this guy that came on at midnight on the station I worked for, Y97. His name was Guy Gooden, and he was a interesting fella. The late great Basil the Boxer never met him, and I don't think I've not spoken to Guy in 40 years. That must put him somewhere at almost 80 years old, I think is how old Guy is at this point. But he did this show where he would play basically alternative. It was alternative rock, and I'm sure he would go, "Oh no, it wasn't alternative rock," and he would talk with a British accent, even though he wasn't British. And he was a huge fan of Peter Sellers. I think he wrote a book on him. He had met Brian Ferry, had dinner with him. He was just this fascinating guy named Guy, and he was always very nice to me. And he was just very creative. And he would do little comedy bits too while he would play this alternative music, and he'd play it all off of records. Well, I found out just recently that, speaking of Twitch, he still does his show and he broadcasts it on Twitch. So
The word of dog.
the word of dog is, well, now I looked him up, and Basil saying there, "Hey, that's great, and hope you're having a good day," is what he's saying. But I looked it up. I looked him up on Twitch. I didn't see it, and he's supposed to be on live Friday night, overnight to Saturday in the morning, because he was a night owl, and he still does this show on Twitch where he's playing music, but he wasn't there. I waited, and he was not there. So a little sad. But it made me it reminded me and made my brain go into the mode of Guy Gooden and how interesting he was in the early days of radio and how I was doing all of that. And I've been thinking a lot about that lately because I found on the iHeartRadio app, which you can find Mike's Daily Podcast on that app, but if you want to listen to it, but I found old Casey Kasem shows from the 70s and 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. Whoa. It's fascinating.
Mathewsman Park.
I know this is a Mathewsman Park of interesting stuff.
The front panel will close automatically. Please remain seated at all times.
Oh, I just got a message from my lovely lady friend that she is heading home. Maybe she will grace us on the podcast when she gets to Café Anyway. Fascinating. We'll see if she does. Let me tell her to drive safe. Drive. It keeps wanting to spell Doris. Or dork. There we go. Are you one of these people that never uses punctuation at the end? Never says, hey, exclamation point. I miss you, exclamation point. I love you, exclamation point, whatever it is. The youngins, they don't do any punctuation. Those youngins. Okay. I just feel as if I've been going back in time listening to some of these old countdowns because I used to run Casey Kasem in the late 80s. I'd have to be at the station at 6 in the morning. I was the guy that would just play back shows, basically. Eventually getting on the radio in a full-time capacity when I was working in country radio in the 90s and 00s. Still working radio. Here's the thing. It's just fascinating how music can just... And Clint Black said it best. Ain't it funny how a melody can bring back the memory?
And now we return you to our regularly scheduled program with Mike Matthews.
So I've been thinking about that a lot lately and about how people don't use punctuation correctly in text. And my lovely lady friend said it best just this morning. The more ways that we have now to communicate. We have more ways to communicate than ever before on the planet Earth. Yet we say less. So here we go. As we go outside of Café Anyway, where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in podCastro Valley, the last place on earth in the land of Ameritopica. Next, it'll be robots. We've had, let's see, communication, mass social media. This is the progression of the earth, or you could call it the digression of the earth, and then...
Anyway.
Or regression. And then... along comes artificial intelligence, which completely destroys all art since it makes basically anybody can create whatever they want. They just type in, show me a picture of a dog with wings. But okay, so we got that. And next are robots, or robots, as some people say. Are robots taking union jobs? Hyundai plans to deploy... Hyundai? Now, I believe my next door neighbor works for Hyundai. If he's listening, I know he listens. Hyundai.
Mike's out of left field recording.
I know this is slightly out of left field, but here we go.
Recording everything. Captures actions that will never again be repeated.
Hyundai plans.
A fine.
This is a fine article. Let me just tell you.
You see, great fat article.
And she has always sent to me, whenever we correspond, the lamest text. Like, she just sends me a YouTube video of the band. What is this band? No explanation why she's sending it to me. Nothing else. Just sends it. What? This is, I've had her on my show before, Madrog Chica, the Stormy Phoenix. And what are you trying to say? Why are you sending no context? Bloomberg has their new slogan these days. Well, they've been using it for a couple of years now. Context changes everything. So robots will mark what they're doing is, yes, and I think my next door neighbor might have mentioned this. Hyundai plans to deploy humanoid robots named Atlas. They're called Atlas at the U.S. factory they have in Georgia. And they're going to be doing that starting in 2028. The robots will mark a step toward automating higher risk.
The interesting thing about the president is
what's that?
He eats really bad food, which is McDonald's, and then, candy and Diet Coke. He drinks the Diet Coke all times. He has the constitution of a deity. I don't know how he's alive, but he is.
I don't know how he's alive, but he is.
said RFK Jr. And they're good friends, the president and him. All right. He exists on caffeine. Nothing wrong with that. Or maybe there is something wrong with that. I probably drink too much caffeine as it is. But I don't do the Diet Coke. I'm not a big fan of the aspartame or Splenda or whatever the heck they use in there. Robots will mark a step toward automating higher risk and repetitive manufacturing tasks involving heavy loads and repetitive motions, which is pretty much what robots have been doing in their... See, this is what we've had robots forever. The automated arms that go burp, 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 repeatedly. We have in all these different companies, factories, plants. So I don't get what the big change is, but the media goes, woo, robots! Let's talk about the McRib. I remember I had a McRib when I was a kid.
All right, now, Tay-Tay, my favorite.
Oh, Tay-Tay's her favorite. That's Daria Folsom. She is no longer working at Kron. So sad. She'd been there something like 25 years, and she's gone. She left. But to this day, I would like her to know that at our ages, because we're about the same age, saying the word Tay-Tay is verboten. That's German for don't, no. McRib lawsuit claims that McDonald's misled customers by advertising the McRib as a rib meat sandwich when it's a patty that's allegedly pulled from pork cuts. But what? You didn't know this? You thought it was from an actual rib? Early 80s, I remember eating that. Riding my bike over to the McDonald's, getting one of those, and that orange drink, whatever the heck is in there. That's not, probably got zero vitamin C. Crazy.
The Fascinating Material Project.
Isn't this fascinating? Fascinating material.
Hey, kids.
So fascinating.
It's me.
Oh, hey.
Do-Re-Mi the Clown.
He loves McRib sandwiches. So, it's made to look like a rack of pork ribs, this McRib thing. It's lower grade pork cuts. I have made a rule in my life now never to go out to the store and buy anything pork related. Sorry, pig farmers of America. Pigs are cute. But the thing is, I just, at my age, okay, in 20 years I'll be pushing 80. I do not want to have that in my system. It's bad for you, even though they call it lean, the other white meat or whatever. But McDonald's first started selling the McRib all the way back in 1981. That sounds right. And in fact, that's probably 81 was the year that I would ride my bike over. Because I think I was living in Van Nuys, California. And I remember I wanted to do, this was during the summer. Mom left me at home, said, yeah, do whatever. So I'd ride my bike over there. I rode my bike all over the San Fernando Valley. And I rode my bike to this McDonald's and would buy that and go, And then I'd get all juiced up with whatever bad stuff was in there. And I would go and try and get rid of all the ivy in the backyard. Our backyard, for some reason, was just overgrown with ivy. And the ivy that grows in the San Fernando Valley is ruthless. You can't pull it. You can't get at it. It just, the more you pull out, the more there's growing. I don't know what it is. The ivy in the Bay Area is not so bad. Thank you. And then there's the Ivy Leagues, and I don't want to have anything to do with them. Should you invest in bluefin tuna sushi? Japanese sushi is apparently big. There's a Japanese sushi chain that has dropped $3.2 million on a 535-pound bluefin tuna. One of last year's buyers paid $1.3 million for a 608-pound tuna. Tunas are cute. If you go to the Monterey Aquarium, you will see the tunas swimming, and you feel as if I don't think I should ever eat tuna again, because They're beautiful fish, magnificent creatures. Then there is the magnificent creature that's not so magnificent, Elon Musk, but his ex. Yes, his ex. No, not his ex. He's got a lot of exes. And they don't live in Texas, they live in England. Well, one of them does. Tallulah something. And then there's this new ex that's suing him over Grok showing inappropriate pictures of her that are not real. And she looks just like Tallulah. So I think he's got a type, is what I'm saying. Maybe Grimes looks the same too, but his company called X, he comes up with the fitting names. X faces probes in Europe, India, Malaysia. It is now being investigated after Grok generated explicit images of women and children.
Woo!
No, not woo. Musk uses lawsuits like this to draw attention to his underserved products. Yes, he's using it. He uses the lawsuits like this to get more attention to Grok so that Grok can beat OpenAI and Gemini. And OpenAI, he's like suing OpenAI because he said, hey, they partnered up with Microsoft. OpenAI was supposed to be this thing that everybody could use. It wasn't supposed to make money and attach itself to a huge conglomerate, a huge company. And, X in some ways competes against Microsoft.
We love you, Mike.
And competes against Google, which owns Gemini, etc. Thank you, guys. You're very kind. One more interesting thing. So, X also has those, whatever they call it. Is it the robo-taxi or the Tesla, whatever he calls his cars that self-drive, that it's taxi service that he wants to do. 2025 was the year of robo-taxis. It was the year it went mainstream with Waymo. And NVIDIA made a number of autonomous vehicle announcements at the recent CES, the Consumer Electronics something seminar that was in Vegas. Tesla and Waymo. No, not they're making kombucha, but Tesla and Waymo should be worried because NVIDIA has unveiled Alpamayo. Alpa, like you're saying Alpo, the food for the dog, and mayo, the delicious stuff that you put on the sandwich to make it taste good, even though it's bad for you. Alpamayo, an open reasoning AI model family designed specifically for autonomous driving. NVIDIA wants to bring its solutions into a ready-to-use foundation for all car makers, self-driving cars, and robotaxis. Personally owned cars will start seeing level 4 self-driving modes by the end of this year and into next. Mercedes-Benz will begin shipping cars with the technology this year, offering advanced driver-assisted features comparable to Tesla's. So that's their full self-driving. A self-driving Mercedes-Benz will be able to use NVIDIA's technology to navigate cities like San Francisco. So that's
you will travel into the incredible universe.
So it used to be just Waymo in the incredible universe and Tesla with their self-driving cars. Now Mercedes-Benz and NVIDIA is how things are going in the future. Wait, I have a thing for this. Does this work? Wait, is this working over here? In the future. Thank you. U.S. vehicle sales, speaking of cars, are estimated to have risen about 2% last year. The new car market is stabilizing. There's legacy automakers that have hybrids, have outperformed electric vehicle only players. So Toyota, Hyundai, Kia, and Honda,
Magnification.
They have all magnificated. All reported annual sales gains. Resilient consumer demand has been happening for traditional vehicles and hybrids. Electric vehicle adoption slowed, though, across the industry, and Tesla has not reported U.S. only numbers, but saw compression due to costs, increased competition, and slow electric vehicle demand. And buyers are favoring hybrids and traditional vehicles over fully electric models, challenging assumptions about the pace of electric vehicle adoption. And is part of that because Trump said, no, we're not going to, part of the big, beautiful bill, the BBB, saying, nope, I'm not going to give any more subsidies to people that buy electric vehicles. I don't know. Look who's here. Hi, Matt. It's Benita the rodeo queen. Hi, guys. Doing up at my horse today. Ain't the Disgruntled Fiddle Player tell you?
Ginormous.
Tell you what. What? Why'd that lady just say ginormous? I don't know. But I did not know that there was a song called Patches, and I have a cat named Patches. But in 1973, there was a song that had made it to the top of the charts. It was in the top 100 for the end of the year. And it is a very sad song about a guy whose father dies and leaves him the farm, and he's in Alabama, and he's working, and it's tough, and he's just a kid. And now I have this song, and I sing it to the weird black and white cat that I have, who I've had many podcast pictures of. He's weird in that, well, he's not weird. He grew up, basically, he was abandoned, we think, and left to die, and somehow survived on his wits. He's an excellent mouse catcher, and he's a mouser, and he survived all this time, and now we have him. He comes over, he comes into the house, we pet him, we feed him, and he's very kind. He doesn't let us pick him up, but he has his own song from 1975 that I never knew about. Speaking of which, 1975 was also the year that Chaka Khan had a lot of success with her band Rufus, and the year previous as well. And then about 10 years later, that Ain't Nobody Better. And then Prince wrote her the solo hit song, I Feel For You, I Think I Love You, and all that. And I just want to say that, wow, that band was amazing. Her voice was amazing. There was some great go back and listen to some music from the 70s. There was some incredible stuff. It is interesting that in 1 year, the top 5, I think it was 74 or 72, somewhere, there was 72 that you had at the top of the charts, like Bye Bye Miss American Pie, the Day the Music Died, the Don McLean song, an amazing song. What you listen to the lyrics of that and go, what is happening? What is going on? What's he talking about? But then you go, oh wait, I think he's mentioning stuff about the Beatles here and the Rolling Stones, and he's talking a little bit about Vietnam here. Basically everything that was happening in the early 70s. It's an amazing little look into the world of what the times were like in the 70s, in the early 70s. And I was just a wee bairn. And it's just amazing to not dismiss music from an era just because, oh, that's a bunch of the 70s music. I mean, the stuff that was coming out, the dance hits were amazing. You had a whole bunch of songwriters. There was, what was his name? Alone Again, Naturally. Gilbert O'Sullivan. He was at the top of the charts along with the Maggie May, Rod Stewart. This was all early 70s.
Oh my gosh!
The bottom of the chart.
Pretty good songs that never made it on the radio because people didn't think they were worth. But you know what? They come back up and people start playing them. And it's like, oh, where'd that come from?
The number one song in 1975 was Roberta Flack, The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. The first time she had a huge hit song that was made a hit song because of the Clint Eastwood movie Play Misty for Me, filmed over here in Carmel, where Clint Eastwood was mayor for a time. But at the bottom of the charts, possibly a guy who was at the top of the charts for a long time, but his band called Carpet Frogs. Never really at the top of the charts here in America. Maybe big in Canada. But the guy's name is Cummings. Is it Bernard? This is funny because this is the area that I, for some reason, don't know. I'm talking about the Guess Who. Burton Cummings. Bernard Cummings. Burton Cummings, who is still alive, 78 years old, from Canada, was with the band The Guess Who. There's such a fascinating story about the Guess Who, but he had his own solo hit song, Stand Tall, which all the radio stations I worked for, we never played that song. We'd play Guess Who, These Eyes, American Woman, the No Sugar Tonight, and all the other ones. fantastic, an amazing voice, but how he magnifies singing to a whole nother level with that song Stand Tall, this ballad that he did. But then later tried to get the Guess Who back together. I guess sometimes toured with them. He did a couple solo albums, but then like in America, his American label wouldn't release the albums. He had an album called Woman in Love, was not released in the United States, but became a hit in Canada. He's won Juno Awards. He's huge. And he's got such an amazing voice. I saw a video on YouTube from 10 years ago where he still sounds amazing. And then started this band called the Carpet Frogs, which is with the guy from Bachman Turner Overdrive. Let's see, because he couldn't call Randy Bachman, the father, I believe he's the father of Tal Bachman, who sang She's So High in the 90s. But they started, Randy Bachman and Burton Cummings started a duo project called, backed by the Canadian rock band, the Carpet Frogs. Oh, I see. So they were backed by them, but now sometimes goes by the Carpet Frogs. Anyway, Café Anyway. They've also served as Cummings' solo band. In 2008, Cummings released his first all-new solo album in 18 years. And then he released a book. He's done some acting. He returned to solo performances just before COVID. And he then released an album called A Few Good Moments just 2 years ago. He, for some reason, can't use the Guess Who name because of some guy, the jerk in the band that said, you can't say that even though you were the voice. But the fascinating thing, if we go way back to when the Guess Who first started, was they were going to be called he was with a band called Chad Allen and the Expressions, but what they did, they've been subjected to a record company's publicity stunt, says Wikipedia, in which their 1965 hit single Shakin' All Over was released anonymously with the message Guess Who? To trick listeners into thinking it was a famous British invasion band, being, I guess, The Who. Disc jockeys then announced the song as being by someone called Guess Who, forcing the group to accept the nickname. Their latest releases had been issued under the name Chad Allen and the Expressions, with Guess Who? Displayed prominently on the cover. Chad Allen then left his namesake band, leaving Burton Cummings as the sole singer. The band's name then was changed to simply The Guess Who, with Cummings become one of the band's primary songwriters in conjunction with the guitarist Randy Bachman. The first album under the name was It's Time in the summer of 1966. Bachman was the founding member of, he's listed as the founding member of the Guess Who, as well as Bachman Turner Overdrive. So all that is amazing, and you've heard those songs like Taking Care of Business that Bachman Turner Overdrive did, and you ain't seen nothing yet and all that. So fascinating, but not necessarily at the bottom of the charts. But we are at the end of the show. But we didn't say hi to this guy right here.
Oh, Mike, I make delicious root beer hash right now. Oh, boy, I make the root beer.
Thank you. I could go for some after all that description of amazing singers from Canada. That was so good. What was in that?
I put a little bit of happiness in it because I make the root beer down in the basement. The root beer. Yeah, drink it right now. I'll cut you. I sure like it when you talk about classic rock and all that kind of stuff that happened in the 70s and everything. Oh, boy.
Yes, there's some great songs from way back. Check them out. Go back in time. Listen to some cool stuff. Because this is now... The classic rock is basically when we were listening to... When we were kids, listening to stuff from like the 50s, even the 40s... You know, the Great American Songbook stuff from the 30s and 20s. We're hearing some stuff now that's just, it's lasted all this time. And you get a real glimpse into what was going on back then. What do you think about all that? Here's the number.
Call Mike at the Café Anyway hotline. Area code 510-228-4646. 940.
And with all things having to do with Mike's Daily Podcast, we go to the mainframe and hear from A-Frame. Thank you for listening to Mike's Daily Podcast.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com.
Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com.
See you tomorrow. Bye!